A recording has started.
I have 437, Chair LaHood.
Great, thank you.
Would you like to introduce the meeting or do you want me to?
Actually, if you could, that would be great. Thank you.
All right. This is the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting of the City and County of San Francisco. This is a remote meeting via video conference. The browser name is bit.ly/3zihxpz, and the password is Sunshine. Public comment call-in number 415-655-0001. The meeting ID is 2488-326-2286##. You press *3 to enter the speaker line. Remote access to information and participation. In accordance with Governor Newsom's Executive Order N3320, declaring a state of emergency regarding the COVID-19 outbreak, and Mayor London and Breed's proclamation declaring a local emergency issued on February 25, 2020, including the guidance for gatherings issued by the San Francisco Department of Public Health officer, aggressive directives were issued to reduce the spread of COVID-19. On March 17, 2020, the Board of Supervisors authorized their board and committee meetings to convene remotely via Microsoft Teams and will allow remote public comment via video conference. Members of the public may participate by phone or may submit their comments by email to sotf@sfgov.org. All comments received will be made a part of the official record. Sunshine Ordinance Task Force agendas and their associated documents are available at sfbos.org/sunshine.
Thank you.
Do you want to read meeting decorum, Chair LaHood, or do you want me to?
Sure, I can read that. Meeting decorum. Any member of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force may call for decorum due to disorderly conduct of meeting participants. Persons who engage in threatening and/or menacing behavior may be asked to leave. Please call the first item.
Item number 1, call to order, roll call on agenda changes. Roll call. Member Wolf.
Present.
Member Wolf present. Member Wong.
Present.
Member Wong present. Chair LaHood.
Present.
Chair LaHood present. We have a quorum. I am not aware of any agenda changes. Are the members, Chair LaHood?
I am not aware of any changes. Members, anything that you're aware of, or shall we proceed? Okay. Please call the next item.
Okay, hang on a second. Item number 2, approval of the December 27, 2022 Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting minutes. Okay, I've got a copy of the minutes here. Does anybody have any suggestions or changes or?
I thought they looked good. Members, was there any edits or amendments from either of you? Member Wong.
Yeah, I have a few things. So agenda item 3, there's a quote. I think I want to say it's from Mr. Hillier. One of his comments. Yeah, it says, courts also require plaintiffs to supply proposed actions in the form of prayers in their complaints. And I believe that probably isn't the right word.
Well, except that he provided this in writing, so that is verbatim what he sent.
Oh, okay.
That's how that works. If I get comments, Member Wong, I put them in verbatim, just cut and paste into the minutes.
Gotcha. Thanks. All right, so that's one taken care of. Another one I saw was agenda item 4. It doesn't include the notes about why I think the motion was, the motion that was made in the December 2022 meeting, where we were planning to send that item back to the full task force to issue a letter to the Board of Supervisors to have them update the retention policy. So I think we should add that in, I think, the byline of agenda item 4.
Okay, if the action says moved by member Wong, seconded by member Wolf to refer the records retention letter from the Department of Public Health about to the Sunshine Task Force about citywide Microsoft Teams retention policy with the recommendation that the task force issue a letter to the Board of Supervisors that this policy be updated to be in compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance. So you want to change that action?
Actually, sorry, that I made a mistake. So it's actually missing from the byline of today's agenda, not from the minutes. That's why I had
I'm confused. So today's agenda, not the minutes that we're looking at right now.
Yes.
Not last month?
Correct.
Just so we don't get confused, could we proceed with the minutes and then go back to the agenda if we need to make a change? Okay, so we're not asking Ms. Leger to change that on this agenda, but please proceed with your third item.
One more thing on the minutes that I saw. I think in agenda item 5, it would be helpful to have a few notes on what the committee members said. For example, Chair LaHood requested to see a log of meetings canceled. And I wanted to know about consistency of time for each agenda item. And then lastly, the reason that the motion was being made. And I think one of the reasons was that also Member Wolf suggested we seek closure on the item and pass any further recommendations along to EOTC to help train. I think it was, I want to say it was BHC or.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, just a few notes on the context of that one.
Okay, can you say that again so that I can include it in the minutes for your suggested changes in item 5, I guess it is?
Do you want me to email them to you maybe? I basically would email them to you verbatim based on what I just said. Oh, are folks muted or?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think Ms. Leger is just.
I'm typing.
I'm assuming she's typing. Okay. Well, do we have a motion to accept the minutes with the proposed addition of a couple of sentences as stated by Member Wong for item number 5? Do we have a motion to accept the minutes with that addition?
I move to approve.
Do we have a second? Okay, great. Let's open this up for public comment.
Yes, if there are any members of the public who like to make public comment on this matter, you can raise your hand at this time by pressing *3 or otherwise using the application to raise your hand. I'll give everyone a few moments. I do not see any indications for public comment on this item. I believe we can close public comment.
Okay, just out of curiosity, are there other people in, do we have other participants in this call?
We have approximately 8 people called in.
Okay, I am seeing a hand raised.
Okay, he just raised it. You will unmute him.
It is I.
Where do you have public comment on this item for?
Yeah, I probably do, but in interest of time, I'll save it. I just was testing out the hand raising thing.
Thank you.
So is it still no public commenters? Mr. Young?
There are no additional public commenters.
Okay, Mr. Greer, thank you for, we know the hand raising function works. If anyone else has any problems, please let us know. We do want to make sure that anyone who wants to make public comment has an opportunity to do so. And Mr. Young, just in case we have any new visitors on the call, if they want to raise their hands, what should they do?
If they're calling in by telephone, they can press *3. If they're using the online application, they can use the application to raise their hand.
Okay, great. Thank you. Seeing no additional public comment, let's please call the vote.
Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Member Wong? Member Wong, aye. Member LaHood, Chair LaHood? Chair LaHood, aye. Moved by Member Wong, moved by Member Wolf, seconded by Member Wong to approve the minutes with suggested changes.
Okay, thank you. Now, before we proceed to the next item, Member Wong, you said there was a problem with the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Correct. So I think in the byline of agenda item 4, that's the one that is actually missing notes on the motion that we had made from the December 27th, 2022 meeting related to this particular item.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's in the minutes from the December 27th, 2022 meeting, but it's not in today's agenda as like kind of an extra note.
Okay. Would you mind, since you've got eyes on both of those things, when we get to that item, could you remind Ms. Leger or perhaps jump in and read that additional piece after she reads the first part?
I can try.
Or I can do it.
Okay.
I will look it up and I can probably give you a summary while you're taking public comment.
Awesome.
That would be
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we do have that update to the agenda. Is that something that requires a vote, or is that just we're making a plan?
I don't believe it is an update to the agenda because those are just notes that we put in for convenience.
Right. Okay.
It's not an action or a title or anything of that nature. But while we get to that item, I think we still need to take general public comment. And then we can move on to this item just to stay in order.
Yes, that is what we would like to do. So Ms. Leger, please call item number 3.
Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda.
Okay, does anyone would like to make general public comment? At this time, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 or using the application to raise your hand. I'll give everyone a chance to raise their hand at this time. Sorry, I'm just looking up some other items while I'm waiting. Okay. I am not seeing any hands raised at this time. I think you can close public comment.
Okay. Public comment is closed. Ms. Leger, please call the next item.
Item number 4, file number 22012, complaint filed by Anonymous against Director Grant Colfax and the Department of Public Health for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and or complete manner. On September 7, 2022, the task force moved to find that Grant Colfax and the Department of Public Health violated Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance Section 6721B by failing to provide records in a complete manner, and for 67.26 for not keeping withholding to a minimum, and orders Director Grant Colfax and the Department of Public Health to continue to turn over requested records and forward to the Compliance and Amendments Committee for continued monitoring. On October 25, 2022, the Compliance and Amendments Committee moved to request that the respondents submit a letter detailing their retention policy regarding Microsoft Teams chats by November 8, 2022.
Okay, and Mr. Young, if you could read what should have been added from the December meeting.
Okay, give me a moment. I am going to look up the compliance amendment minutes for December. Sorry, we've been having computer problems today. Our computers in the office have been going on and off with windstorms. So everything is running a little bit slower. So while I'm doing that, I see if the parties who are a party to this matter, if you can go ahead and raise your hand, it would be appreciated so I can identify you and unmute your lines.
And actually, while you are doing that, I can read the action for this item, which was, this was from our December 27th, 2022 Compliance and Amendment Committee meeting. And the motion was moved by Member Wong, seconded by Member Wolf, to refer the records retention letter from the Department of Public Health to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force about citywide Microsoft Teams retention policy, with the recommendation that the SOTF issue a letter to the Board of Supervisors that this policy be updated to be in compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance.
Okay, that now that you found it, you don't need to look for it anymore.
Correct. And actually, yes, and now that I'm reading that, I apologize. I'm not sure that this should be on our agenda. I think this should have gone to the full task force because we've already made that recommendation.
Okay, I have
before we
Hodgman. I'm not sure if she's a party to this matter. She's with
and I agree with Chair LaHood. I mean, I think I'm happy to read my statement again, but I don't have any updates from my end.
Thank you for being here. And I want to discuss with the other members was that, and I think this was my error because we didn't have that last bit on the agenda, and I didn't realize that. Yes, Member Wong.
Yeah, since I was out of town, I thought that it had already happened during the meeting that I was absent for. And so I assumed there was going to be an update on it.
Member Wolf, anything to add? Yes, I think at this point, this just needs to go to the full task force with our recommendation.
Yeah, I agree.
In that case, Ms. Hodgman, I'm sorry that we had you come attend this meeting. I'm glad it was the first item. Do we need to make a motion to reaffirm our previous motion or just proceed? Okay. I think we're just going to proceed. Because it was on the agenda, I will open up for public comment. If there's any members of the public wishing to make public comment on this matter.
So I will include this on the April 2023 task force agenda.
Actually, I do see Ms. Pochman's hand up, and I would like to give her an opportunity to speak since she did show up to this meeting, and if you could unmute her and give her a chance to speak.
Oh, and I apologize. I will raise my hand. I don't have anything more to say. I'm happy to read the statement I read last time, but I don't need to. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment on this matter?
I'm not seeing any additional hands raised at this time.
Okay, seeing no further public comment, let's proceed to the next item on the agenda.
Okay, there is no vote being taken.
That's correct.
Okay. Item number 5, file number 22092, hearing to review the Behavioral Health Commission's compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance for meetings that occurred after April 13, 2021. On April 6, 2022, the task force referred the matter to the Compliance and Amendments Committee to monitor future Behavioral Health Commission meetings for compliance with the following sections of the Sunshine Ordinance. 67.7A, providing an adequate description of the agenda items. 67.7A, posting agenda 72 hours in advance of the meeting. 67.7B, providing a clear description of the agenda matters. 67.7B, posting supporting documents online or making them available as soon as they are available. 67.7G as in George, including notices of rights under the Sunshine Ordinance on the agenda. 67.9A as in Apple, posting supplementary documents for the meeting on the internet. 67.15A as in Apple, allowing public comment for each item on the agenda. In addition, the task force requests that the Behavioral Health Commission provide their manual or description of their procedures, practices implemented to address the code sections listed. In an effort to document compliances with the posting requirements of the Sunshine Ordinance, the task force requests that the Behavioral Health Commission maintain a log of when agendas and supporting documents are posted, along with any other relevant data. On December 27, 2022, the Compliance and Amendments Committee moved to continue the matter to the call of the chair and continue to monitor the Behavioral Health Commission for compliance with order of determination. Specifically, the committee will be keeping a close eye on notice of meetings, and in the event meetings are not noticed 72 hours in advance, how the commission handles that and make sure that the public comment is called every time it is required, and that staff provide the committee a description of their procedures and practices with regards to the ordinance, which the committee recommended that they use as the basis for a public document describing their procedures and practices, or B, I'm missing a sentence. I think it's the way my document was printed. Can you read that last sentence, Chair LaHood? I started basis for a public document describing their procedures and practices, or B,
Incorporated into their bylaws.
okay.
Okay, if you are a party to this matter, if you don't mind raising your hand at this time, so I can identify the speakers and unmute your microphone. Okay.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Great. This is Marlo Simmons with Behavioral Health Services.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
I'm just wondering if Mr. Hillier is with us today. If you can raise your hand so I can identify you. Okay. I do not believe Mr. Hillier is with us at this time.
Okay, could we please, since I know that he's very interested in this subject, Mr. Young, could you keep an eye on the attendees and see if we have anyone who arrives at the last minute? Because I do want to make sure that we include him in this discussion if he is here.
Yes,
he has
I will
submitted
do that. And just in case he's one of our anonymous callers, you can go ahead and press *3 to raise your hand so I can identify you.
And Chair LaHood, can I also request that if Amber Gray from the Behavioral Health Commission staff is on, that she would raise her hand and join us as well?
Yes,
I do
did
see
unmute
Amber
her.
Gray.
I believe she muted herself. I've unmuted her again.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not sure if she's unmuted yet, but Mr. Young, if you could keep an eye on Amber Gray and make sure that she does get unmuted.
She has control of her own mic right now.
Okay.
I see her muting and unmuting her own line.
Okay, great. Great. So one thing I would like to mention, there were a lot of documents submitted, many by Mr. Hillier, that are attached to this file. We did receive some documents from the Behavioral Health Commission, which I believe, Ms. Leger, can you explain? I know they were forwarded to the task force. It sounds like there was a little bit of a disconnect, that the documents were received in time but didn't get added to it because of timing. Can you explain what happened there?
I'm not sure what you're referring to. Documents that.
Oh, there were some documents that we received by email from the Behavioral Health Commission, and I believe that you said that they weren't included in the packet, or were they ultimately included in the packet?
No, I did. I did
Okay.
get a submission from them. It came in after working hours on Thursday evening, and I tried to include it on Friday morning before I actually began the upload of records. So
Okay, great,
it was
great.
included.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make sure, because I know I had seen them, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't referring to something that wasn't in there. I do want to say to the Behavioral Health Commission representatives, thank you for submitting these documents. And members, were you able to see those as well? We have the tracking log and the Sunshine Ordinance compliance procedures. Did you see both of those? Okay, it looks like we all saw them. Actually, would someone from the Behavioral Health Commission, just for others who are on the line, give us a brief description of those two documents, which we were happy to receive and were exactly what we had asked for?
Amber, do you want to do that, or do you want me to? It's your call. And maybe I'll jump in if Amber's having technical problems.
Okay.
So the first document that you mentioned is a tracking log, which staff is using, and generally it indicates all regular Behavioral Health Commission meetings, meaning the full commission, as well as the committees, the dates they're held, and talks about who the chair is, as well as when we posted it online. And quite honestly, I don't have it in front of me, Chair Lilith, so I can't remember every column, but it's a tracking document that we're using to ensure for our own purposes and to document for others when we are posting things online to ensure we're meeting the 72-hour requirement. And we also have the policies document, which basically all of the points that were read at the opening of this meeting, which are kind of the key Sunshine Ordinance Task Force elements, talking about our procedures to ensure we follow each of those procedures. And this is something that staff have been trained on, that we have reviewed, and we are consistently following. If there is an exception to that, it is an oversight and an error, not at all a intentional oversight.
I also noticed in the tracking document that you do have a column where you make a note if there's a lack of the meeting is adjourned due to lack of quorum.
Yes, thank you. That's also true.
So, members, do you have any? I know I referred specifically to these two documents. Do you have questions about these or about any of the other aspects of compliance that we've been following with the Behavioral Health Commission? Member Wong.
Yeah, I think one of the complaints that Mr. Hillier had suggested was that there wasn't a general public comment time just to comment on all agenda items. And so I wanted to just double check on that. I did see that there is in your agendas that were provided, it seems like there's an item called final public comment. So I wanted to see if that was the kind of general public comment like we have in these meetings.
Yeah, so we have a public comment after every item, and then at the end of the meeting, a comment on any topic related to the Behavioral Health Commission. So for example, the last meeting we had on the 15th, we had 10 agenda items. So Mr. Hillier had an opportunity to speak for over 20 minutes because he took an opportunity for every public comment. And the last item again is general comment.
Okay, thank you.
Member Wolf, I actually have a question for you. Is there, because I look to you for a lot of the technical details about running meetings. Is it advised to have general public comment at a particular point in the meeting, or is that up to the person running the meeting?
It needs to be agendized specifically. So like for us, we have a running policy that we have approved of being at 5 o'clock during the regular task force meetings, and generally at the beginning, right after minutes in the committee meetings. But it must be it must be on the agenda at a specific place. Now, whether they move it, they move it around the agenda from meeting to meeting, and all of that, there's no hard and set fast rule with regards to that. I know that there was some consternation among members of the public around the Planning Commission having recently done that, where they moved public comment to the end and not at the beginning. And it basically, for whatever implications there were for people, and there were many, you can imagine, it created a lot of issues from people who not only regularly come, but just for a matter of when people can show up. They have to plan your day around that, since most of the city public meetings are held during business hours and not after work, as other municipalities do. I just also wanted to add, Mr. Hillier had just emailed me saying that he's been trying to raise his hand, but it's not working, and he's trying to log in for a third time now.
Okay, I'm glad that you were checking your email about this. Mr. Young, do we see Mr. Hillier, or could you perhaps, we might have to methodically go through and unmute the different callers to figure out which one is Mr. Hillier's line?
If he is calling in, if you can press *3 to raise his hand, you can go ahead and do that. If I don't see a hand raised momentarily, I'll just go ahead and unmute everybody and just try to figure it out.
Okay.
I just received an email from Mr. Hillier that he is here.
Okay.
I will go ahead and look for him. Give me a moment.
Also,
Thank
Amber
you.
Gray said she cannot talk as well.
Okay.
And I see Amber.
Her line is unmuted.
I wonder if she may have muted her computer.
Yes, I see her muting and unmuting herself previously. At this time, Ms. Gray is listed as unmuted. So we can work on that. But before we do that, let's see if we can find our other caller.
Okay, while Mr. Young is looking for our other caller, Member Wolf, another question regarding sort of the technical aspects of meetings. Having looked back at some of the Behavioral Health Commission agendas, I notice sometimes they will list items as sort of 1.1 and 1.2, or even 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3, typically regarding people delivering sort of updates and reports on particular issues, and then doing a general public comment. Is that acceptable, or do they need to have public comment after each one?
So you mean they have sub A, sub B, sub C?
Yes.
And one public comment period for all three. Okay.
Yes.
We have dealt with this before with the Planning Commission, and to try and consolidate items. And the Ordinance and the Brown Act do not allow that.
I just can't say that. I got to try to switch another.
Okay. I am hearing, I believe I'm hearing Ms. Gray. Yes.
Hello.
We can hear you now.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Before I have you speak, we're going to leave you unmuted because now we know your line works. But Member Wolf, I'd like you to have you restate that last part because I want to make sure that the Behavioral Health Commission heard
Sure.
this.
So we have dealt with this before with another commission where they had done the same thing to create one agenda item and then 3 sub items and then take one public comment period for all three.
Mhm.
Each of those items, whether they are for discussion or each of them for action, must have their own public comment period.
Thank you.
That is the Brown Act, and that is the Sunshine Ordinance. So I don't know who has been advising people to do this. I know that I know specific commissions that have done this. One of them have come before the task force before. It was the Planning Commission, where we more or less instructed them not to do that anymore. I don't know if they're continuing to do that or whether they have now complied or not. But yeah, it's not appropriate. The ordinance is specific, is each item. Okay, sub items are still items, and specifically if they are of different subject matter
Mhm.
as far as discussion, or if they are up for action.
Thank you, Member Wolf. I appreciate that.
If you don't mind giving me a moment, I'll try to find Mr. Hillier. I'm going to have to unmute them one at a time.
Okay.
Hello, caller. Is this Mr. Hillier? Okay, that does not appear to be it. Hello, caller. Yes, I unmuted you. Are you Mr. Hillier? Okay, no answer. Hello, caller. I've just unmuted you. Are you Mr. Hillier?
I heard a beep. I think it's me.
Mr. Hillier, we
Yeah,
found
It
you.
is. It's you.
I'll leave this line unmuted.
Okay. I'm glad we found you. I have some questions for you, but I would like to ask my fellow task force members, since we've already started some other questioning with the Behavioral Health Commission, I want to give them a chance to do any additional follow-up questions that they might have, or independent questions that they might have, and then I'd like to ask Mr. Hillier a couple of questions. Members, do you have any questions or things that you would like to discuss specifically that you'd like to ask of the Behavioral Health Commission? Okay. Mr. Hillier, we're glad to have you here. I don't know, I will ask, since you were having trouble unmuting your line, had you tried to comment on any previous items on the agenda?
No.
Okay. So thank you for sending us your updates. I have a couple of questions. You had sent us in particular, you had sent us a document that you called Compliance and Monitoring Hearing, February 21st, 2023, Exhibits 142 through 145, and then Resolution Text 2. I wanted to ask, why don't I give you a couple of minutes to give us a brief update? Because I know you sent a lot of documents, but there are people on here who maybe didn't have a chance to go through everything. And so I'd like to give you a chance to give us an update. And in particular, I'm curious about this resolutions document and what you were hoping might happen with that.
Okay, I prepared a speech that's less than 4 minutes. I could read that.
I'll let you give it. That's
okay.
That's fine. Okay.
Okay. And I'll add ad lib a little at the end about that document, but it should be clear from the speech. So here it goes.
Okay.
I think the December 2022 meeting of the task force, committee member Wolf said that he was unaware that anyone had ever brought a complaint regarding violation of the second sentence of SF Admin Code Section 67.7A before the task force. I responded that I had brought many complaints of violations of this sentence. In fact, I believe that the task force has ruled in my favor regarding violations of this sentence. On April 6, 2022, the task force voted unanimously to find violation of, inter alia, SF Admin Code Section 67.7A, and I quote, by failing to provide an adequate description of the agenda items, end quote. The words meaningful description used in the first sentence of this subdivision and defined in subdivision B were not used in the task force's determination. If the words meaningful description had been used, then one would be justified in assuming that only violations of the first sentence of subdivision A had been intended. To the contrary, I think the task force used the words adequate description. By these, they must have intended more than what the first sentence of subdivision A required. They must have intended to include also violations of the second sentence of subdivision A, i.e., and I quote, agendas shall specify for each item of business the proposed action or a statement the item is for discussion only, end quote. While I acknowledge that a statement on the agenda to the effect that a complaint will be heard against a respondent for violations of enumerated sections is close to a proposed action to find the enumerated violations against the respondent, items such as this one for ongoing monitoring after violations have been found must contain motions to refer a respondent to municipal authorities for enforcement action, or else they are for discussion only. Especially with violations of Article 2, blame needs to be allocated between staff and volunteers and between the body as a whole and its individual members, and determinations must be made as to willfulness before forms of enforcement corresponding to specific municipal authorities may be chosen. And all of this is required to appear on the agenda for a meeting and be moved and disposed at the meeting, or the item is for discussion only, and the second sentence of SF Admin Code Section 67.7a will have been violated by this body. Please understand that I've repeatedly said before the task force that I would not participate in proceedings held in violation of this sentence. It would be quite hypocritical of me to pursue enforcement action against the Behavioral Health Commission for violations of this sentence through proceedings that themselves violated the same sentence, of which I would complain if the Behavioral Health Commission had conducted them. There is no proposed action for this item on the agenda for this meeting that this body would actually pass to finally determine this matter. There's not even the mention of enforcement action anywhere in this item on the agenda. If this committee sees itself as performing solely a mediating role, then it must state on the agenda that the item is for discussion only. This also being absent, these proceedings are being held in violation of this sentence, and I cannot participate in them. I will refer the committee to my written submission, which I provided directly to the committee in Word format on February 15th, pages 9 and 10 of which contain a brief summary responding to the particular areas of interest mentioned by the committee, with descriptions of the newly committed violations to be found further in the document, reproduced in approximately pages 1863 and 64 of Part 9 of 9. So to answer your question with my remaining 20 seconds, Chair LaHood, those motions those resolutions were resolutions I wanted you to add to your agenda so you could move them at the meeting and dispose of them at this meeting and be in compliance with the second sentence of Section 67.7a. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Muted, Lila.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Hillier. Members, any thoughts or questions? Member Wong, I saw that you had raised your hand. Oh, you were telling me that I was on mute. I jumped in and I had started asking questions of the Behavioral Health Commission. And I had said that I appreciated the documents that they sent, but perhaps I'd like to give one of the representatives a chance to make a brief statement as well. Would anyone from the Behavioral Health Commission like to speak for a few minutes?
Sure. I can speak. If that's
great.
You can hear me now? Okay, good.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I just completed a training by the city attorney on the 15th around the Sunshine Ordinance and compliance and amendments. So next step, we're going to have the commissioners get trained, and we are working currently on the tracking log to make sure we're utilizing it. And I'm still in the training and learning everything I need to learn. And for the most part, I think we've shown some improvement, and I feel that things are moving in the right direction. And I would like to request if we can have in writing any recommendations. The reason I'm asking this is because I would like to share that with the co-chairs so that when I'm saying something that was recommended by the Sunshine Task Force, I have something that backs it up, because the time before when we explained to them that we were supposed to in any meeting that was not posted within 72 hours or did not have quorum, and not to have discussion only as a recommendation of the task force. The co-chairs didn't quite understand how it wasn't in writing. Thank you.
Okay. I think we can help. I think we can help with that.
Thank you.
One thing that I'm thinking, and Member Wong, since I feel like you have good attention to the way agendas are written, and even, you know, we critique our own, and sometimes we don't have everything that we need. Is there any advice that you could offer? I noticed with the Behavioral Health Commission, looking at the agendas versus the minutes, I feel like have a good summary of what's going on. The agenda items, it's clear to me what's going on, but perhaps they could have a little more detail. I don't know, Member Wong, if you have any suggestions about what would be helpful to add that would just sort of going forward might be useful guidelines.
I don't have anything specific. I tend to point folks at examples, and I feel like our agendas tend to be quite thorough in giving context of like the items we are addressing, and then also any actions or motions that we've made associated with them, and then a pretty clear like structure for. I don't even think we need to say public comment, because we have a clear structure for the agenda items. We know that a public comment will follow each of those items. So, you know, if I was going to suggest anything, it would be to point to how we do them for the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force.
The public comment? You mean how we document it?
Putting items on the agenda. So when writing the agenda, like what is included in each line item.
Okay.
So one other thing, I know Mr. Hillier has been very consistent in asking us, and I think Mr. Hillier, I appreciate you being here, and I know we have a bit of a disagreement between you and perhaps other members of the task force regarding what needs to be put on the agenda in terms of discussion and action being enough without having an actual motion on the agenda. We have on these items, it says discussion and action, which means that there's going to be a discussion, and if we think action needs to be taken, we will take action. But as we've discussed before, we don't want to, because we are discussing these cases live in these meetings, we don't know what the action will be because we haven't heard all of the evidence and material we need to have to even propose what that action might be. But I want to acknowledge what you are saying, and I want to let you know that, yes, we are hearing you, though we may disagree with the interpretation of this. Members, any additional thoughts? I know we had talked about, that there's been a lot of progress made here, and I know that education is ongoing, and I think we had discussed previously that this might be a good time for us to refer further work on behalf of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force to the Education Outreach and Training Committee. Do you have any other thoughts or ideas about how we might sort of do that handoff in a way that is meaningful and productive?
Oh, is that question directed to me?
No, I'm sorry. I was asking my fellow committee members.
I'm sorry.
Member Wolf.
Yeah, so a couple of things. What Mr. Hillier had testified to was very dense, and I wish I had it in writing so I could read it while he was running through it, because there was a lot in there I really wanted to be able to ponder before getting on to other subjects, because there were multiple subjects and elements in there. So I appreciate that, but I wish I had it in writing so I could read it, because it's a lot of info to try to process all it in four minutes and all at the same time. I think what may be helpful is to have EOT review the areas that we are concerned about, and that we send, these points to them to, review how and what they're doing. I would also be interested to know what the city attorney is educating them on. So I might want to ask them here today if in the training that the city attorney has provided you, did they tell you it was okay to create, let's say, for instance, sub items to a main agenda item? Like it was item number 2, A, B, and C, with just one public comment period for all 3 items?
May I respond to that, Chair Wolf?
Yes.
Okay. As being involved in construction of the agendas and can be documented by the recordings, even though the subcategories do not specifically label, there is a place for public comment. Public comment is taken, especially in the case of subcategories. Now, we were never called or never, there was never any other than Mr. Hillier, but of course, as you know, that's quite overbearing. There's a lot to wade through there. But nobody else, no other entity, no other reviewer, no other commissioner. In fact, this is the first time we've heard this from the Sunshine Task Force, that the subcategories need to be labeled to have public comment. Even though after our first meeting, I think on April 6th or during the summer, or might even been late, I'll go forward, let's say August or whatever we had that meeting, we take public comment on subcategories anyway, whether it's discussion or action. A subcategory, and I'm not looking at the agenda in front of me, but I know kind of what it looks like. For instance, it may say item number 3, action items. And then there'll be like 4 different items underneath there. We need to vote on the data notebook. We need to accept the minutes, or minutes may be separate, or we need to accept a resolution or motion by a particular commissioner. All of these will be underneath a category prior to reports from each committee. So this will all be categorized under one caption. After each one of these items, there will be an action. There will be public comment.
Yeah, but for each item or just one period?
No, for each item is all for public. It's just not labeled there. It's just not labeled.
Okay.
So as long as the facilitator of the meeting is providing public comment for each item, like we don't, if you look on our agenda, we don't have a place on the agenda that says public comment for each item. It is assumed because that's the law.
Okay.
It's implied.
Right.
So it's implicit. Now, whether or not the Sunshine Task Force has discussed or brought this item up before, we can only bring it up when the issue comes up before us.
Right. I see that.
We can't presuppose all the different scenarios and all the different variations of what happens. But I can say that we have experienced this before with another commission, and we have instructed them not to do that anymore. There is such a thing called a consent calendar. Are you familiar with that?
No, absolutely
So
not.
a consent calendar is where there are generally it's non-controversial items or items that have already been through a significant amount of process where there's been a lot of public comment and they're just coming to a conclusion where you're just taking a group of action items and approving them all at once. And there would be one public comment period for that consent calendar. The option is that any member of the policy body or the meeting body has the right to pull out of the consent calendar and have heard independently any action item.
Okay.
All right, because if let's say they got, some new information that came up and they felt that it wasn't ready for prime time. So that's the other condition for that. So no matter how you organize the agenda, because this is really what we're talking about here, is how the agenda is organized. If you are putting subcategories or sub items under main items, the sub items must generally, in good agenda construction, the sub items must or should reflect what the main item is. It should not be a completely different subject or a completely different action.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you wouldn't have something like you might have a section called action items, and you have a whole list of action items, and you just each do one at a time,
Right.
kind of thing, with public comment for each one. That's different. But if you have a category, a main category that might be approval of code amendments to a certain ordinance, you would have it could only be items that would be under there could only be reflective of that top level heading regarding code amendments to specific code or ordinance. You couldn't have something completely different.
I have a question.
Sure.
In that context, first of all, is this somewhere easily accessible that we can document this, read it? Is it a stipulation? If so, maybe Cheryl can send that to us. The other thing is, a bone of contention that always seems to arise is in this subcategories that each one do get public comment. We will sometimes label, because we're not sure, an item for discussion and possible action.
Yeah.
There may be action that comes out of the discussion. Can we include that? Now, that seems to be an argumentative point. It seems practical to us, but I don't know the specificities of this. Now,
So for us, we always go back to what the ordinance or the law states. That is where it's going to give you your answer.
Okay.
And so that's why I ask about the training that whoever is giving you the training, what are they telling you? Because lots of times, diving into the law, sometimes it's not easy to read. Sometimes it's not written well. Most of the time it's not written well. And so everything is always up for interpretation. Those of us here in the task force who've been here a while, we've gone through things over and over and over again. Sometimes we're surprised at new interpretations that come through. But by the same token, we want to make sure that everyone is being educated along at least the same common interpretation until something else comes up.
No, that's not happening.
Okay.
So I will say, Member Wolf, again, this is Marlo Simmons with Behavioral Health.
Sure.
We are consulting with the city attorney as needed, and we had a training recently, a fairly general training on disclosure of public records.
Oh, okay.
That's one of our, areas of things that we're frequently called upon to do.
Mhm.
So I think that this idea of public comment on every agenda item and not doing sub items, even if we're calling for public comment, that's new information. So we can take that back to the chairs and
No,
have no
actually,
problem implementing that.
forgive me. This is Chair LaHood. I think what Member Wolf was saying, as as long as you are taking public comment with the sub items and the sub items are thematically related to each other,
Right,
you can list them as such.
Yes.
right. Like it's the committee meetings. Okay.
Well, and I think that our topics are, I mean, I wish we could bring one up and we could kind of break through it. We could run through it. But I'm pretty sure. Now, I can only go by commissioners and the many other members of the public, excluding our one hypervigilant individual. We have everyone else seems to be able to follow and track and understand the subcategories and adhere to the public comment policy, even though it's not stated in the subcategory. We do take public comment after each item. So,
Okay.
Okay, that's it.
Yep. Okay. So I appreciate all of the work that your commission has done to be responsive and advance. And I know, this is, it's a process, and, this is something that all of us have to do on an ongoing basis. And what I think this committee would like to do, and I heard Ms. Gray's request for a perhaps what I'd like to do is a write-up from us with I'd like to highlight the areas where we think that you've made good progress and are on the right track, and maybe some areas where they could be helpful, and to share that with you, and then hand it off to our Education Outreach and Training Committee, which that's what they do, is they specialize in training, and I hope that they will be able to be helpful in that respect. I know Mr. Hillier is here, though he did not want to participate in this particular discussion, but I expect that he will continue to attend your hearings and attend our hearings. And, Mr. Hillier is, is an active participant, and I think we will hear from Mr. Hillier when there are issues that he notices. I hope we'll also hear from Mr. Hillier when he sees change that is going in the right direction, because I think that would be helpful to you, and maybe even helpful for Mr. Hillier to say, hey, I asked for this thing, and now I see that you're doing it. So not to tell too many people what to do, but members, do we have I've sort of outlined what I think that we should do as a committee, but do you have other thoughts on this, or would anyone like to make a motion for how we proceed?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
So, I'm not quite clear on what our conclusion is for today with regards to this. Is it just moving it over to EOT, or is there some other action that we need to take to confirm, close, continue?
Mr. Young, do you what action should we take here? And since this item was sent to us for compliance, and I think when it was initially sent to us, it was sent to us with the idea that we would sort of, in fact, from something that I read that Mr. Hillier had sent over, that the initial intention was this for just to go on for like 3 months. And I think we've continued because of the spacing of our meetings. I think we've met about this at least 3 times. We have seen progress. I know that this is. We have seen progress. I'm not going to say everything is resolved and and we're completely done, because again, compliance and attention to these requirements is something that's ongoing. I don't know if I've answered your question, but Mr. Young, in terms of, is there anything procedurally that we need to do to hand this off to EOTC?
It might not be, it may be best to keep it separate from this file and just
Okay.
send a request to EOTC to create a hearing
Okay.
to look at these issues, because I believe we should probably close this file as it's been dealt with, or order of determination has been issued on it. And if it's an educational item, we could probably just create a new file.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Me too.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
The education portion, I mean, is this a, for lack of a better word, is this an amicable training opportunity, or is this a remediation episode?
This is, I remember, Wolf, I see you reacting to this. What do you want to say?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not meant to be that way. It's meant to just help you review what you're doing, and make sure that you hear from us what our sensibility is on compliance, so that you don't end up coming back here again and again for repeating something that maybe is not being interpreted right, somebody is telling you to do that's not right, or what have you. Our interest here is really the public's interest.
I look forward to it, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Member Wolf, we'll let you proceed with your motion.
So I would move that the Compliance and Amendments Committee is satisfied with the outcomes of the of its monitoring of this case, of this complaint, and of this complaint and determination, and we refer the we refer the Behavioral Health Commission to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force's Education, Outreach, and Training Committee for review of the agenda construction, assuring that public comment is taken for every item. And I'm not recalling some of the other items.
Oh, agenda item description. Just offering helpful advice regarding agenda item descriptions.
Yeah.
Who wants to second that?
This is Member Wong. I will second.
Okay, with the motion in place, we can go ahead and accept public comment on this matter. If there's anybody out there who would like to make public comment, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 if you're on the phone. If you're on the application, either via phone or computer, you can use WebEx to raise your hand at this time. Okay, I am not seeing any additional hands being raised at this time.
Okay. We're going to give it one more minute. The only hands I see raised are members of the Behavioral Health Commission, and I think we're ready to call the vote on this.
Okay. Member Wolf,
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Member Wong.
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Chair LaHood.
Aye.
Chair LaHood, aye. Moved by Member Wolf, seconded by Member Wong. The Compliance and Amendments Committee is satisfied with the outcome of the monitoring of this complaint and determination, and refer the Behavioral Health Commission to the Sunshine Task Force Education, Outreach, and Training Committee for review of the agenda construction, assuring that public comment is taken for every item and offering helpful advice regarding agenda item descriptions. Did I get that, Bruce?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Leger, before we call the next item, I wanted to check in with you. I know you might need to take a break at some point. Do you want to take one more item or?
Excuse me, it's like we have two more cases. Why don't we do something after item 6? That help?
Okay, yes.
Madam Chair, just a point of order.
Yes.
On the agenda for items numbers 6 and 7, there's a sub item that says hearing on the complaint. We're not having a hearing.
We are not having a hearing on the complaint. That is correct. I apologize. That is my oversight when I reviewed it. I'm so used to seeing that on our.
I don't understand why not. This is a brand new complaint and the two haven't been heard.
Yeah, but we're only doing determination. We're only doing jurisdiction. We're not having a hearing. That's a task force's job.
All right.
Can I suggest that we talk about this further at a different time?
Okay.
As far as I recall, we've always left both those issues on for new complaints. So I'd like to think about it further and figure this out.
Okay.
I think that sounds like a good plan. Thank you for thank you both for making that suggestion. Let's proceed with item number 6.
Okay. Item number 6, file number 23001, complaint filed by Olga Tikhanova against the San Francisco Police Department for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6725 by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner.
Okay. Is Ms. Tikhanova here?
If you are a party to this matter, either complainant or respondent, if you don't mind raising your hand at this time, you can press *3 if you're on the telephone, or otherwise use the application to raise your hand. I have one hand raised. If you can identify yourself, it would be appreciated.
Lieutenant William Toomey with the San Francisco Police Department.
Thank you. Is the complainant present at this time? If you can go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and unmute some callers just to be sure they're not having a problem.
Thank you.
Hello, caller. I've just unmuted your line. You might have heard a beep. I'm wondering if you're a party to this matter.
No.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to unmute another caller. This person did state they were here to make public comment on this matter, but hello, caller. I've just unmuted you. Are you a party to this matter, or are you just making public comment on this matter?
I'm just making a public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, just looking at the names. I have other parties. And I'm just looking at the names. I have one other caller here, Mr. Tyrell, but hello, Mr. Tyrell. I was wondering if you're associated with this matter or the next item.
Seems to make sense to me, but it sounds like more they just want to say their piece.
Sorry, I can't hear you. It's very low volume.
They can't do anything. They're not the board.
Okay. I don't believe they're paying attention this time, as indicated by the WebEx. I don't believe we have a complainant present with us at this time.
She was noticed. I just checked the agenda item. It went to her.
And Ms. Leger, did you receive any communication back?
No, I just know that she was pretty adamant. I'm kind of surprised because she's adamant about her complaints being heard. And so I specifically was careful about including her in the notice.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't hear any, I can't make it. So I assumed she was available.
Okay, that is unfortunate. Lieutenant Toomey, we appreciate you being here, but members, seeing as this is, and Ms. Leger, this is the first time that we're hearing this case, I'm inclined to say that we should continue it to the next meeting, unless members, you have any other thoughts on this?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Move to continue.
We have a second.
Seconded.
Okay.
Let's open this up for public comment.
I know we have at least one public commenter, but if there's anybody else who would like to make public comment on this matter, you can go ahead and use the application to raise your hand or press *3 if you're calling in. I'm going to unmute our first caller. Cheryl, at your discretion, you can prompt our caller to proceed.
Caller, how would you like to be identified?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, what's your name, sir?
Okay, my name is Andrew James White, formerly of Muscatine, Iowa 52761, currently of District 6 in the city of San Francisco.
Already ready to begin your statement?
Okay, yeah, with direct correlation to file number 23001 on this agenda, I 1 year ago participated in a similar complaint with respect to the ordinance, chapter 67, on the complaint committee minutes agenda, page 6 of 7 on 2/15/22. File number 22006, item 8 was my complaint. And with respect to what's going on here, I don't know exactly, but I had a similar complaint, and the violation was respected with jurisdiction of the ordinance for the task force. But one issue was not, and that was mediation. So I just wanted to shine a little bit of light on the fact that when we're dealing with the DPA, which I'm trying to suggest that maybe this person should also notify that organization for the insurance policy and the plea. Okay, with respect to the DPA, the PD, and the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, that trinity right there, you're going to get resistance. There's gray area in all of those, in all of these organizations. And I'm talking about mediation with respect to policy and procedure, specifically to the DPA. But violation 60, chapter 67.21, subsection B was respected by the task force, which I appreciate. And it was over a star number, and, which is very basic. But so I'm just going to try and focus in on the mediation aspect in the gray area within, because lots of times, if you go directly to the police department, they're going to look at law civilians like they're just clowns and try to ignore your request and think that they're just going to go away. And so you got to hit everybody up. And unfortunately, the complainant isn't on the line, but if anybody else is, please take heed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm just wondering if the respondent would like to make any comments under public comment.
Well, that would be me, Lieutenant Toomey.
Yes. Would you like to make any comments under public comment?
Just for the fact that for the members that are here for the board, we in the police department will stipulate that we in fact did not immediately provide information to the complainant in the 24-hour notice. It wasn't after review of the request an immediate. Pardon me. I'm getting a little bit of light flicker from this wind here. So I apologize for that. It wasn't an immediate disclosure request. There was some question with regards to the date of the request. It was right over the change in year. So the complainant's request was requesting something from 2022. We wanted to confirm that it was actually from 2022, and then found out that it was actually from January of 2023. Since this time, we have provided the information that we do have with regards to the request. So there is no outstanding information that is available. All of the information that we have has been provided. So I just wanted to let the board members know that the police department has responded to the request and provided all that we have to the complainant. But completely understand that the complainant is not available and that we are going to move to have this complaint moved to another day so that we can hear from that complainant, and we'll be happy to be present at that time to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. That there are no additional public commenters at this time, and we will definitely check in with the complainant to see if they maybe they were satisfied, and we will check with them and see if they still want to proceed with this complaint.
Thank you to both of our commenters. We appreciate your comments, and yes, Ms. Leger will make sure that the complainant wants to proceed, and if so, we will put this on our next agenda. Please call the next item.
Okay, hang on a second.
Can you take a vote on the continuance, please?
Oh, sorry. Oh my goodness. Please call the vote.
Member Wolf?
Aye. Aye.
Wolf, aye. Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Charlotte Hood?
Aye.
Charlotte Hood, aye. Moved by Member Wolf, seconded by Member Wong to continue the matter to the call of the chair.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And Ms. Leger is checking on time. Should we take a break now or continue with the meeting?
I say let's go for it.
Let's go for it. Okay, please call the next item.
Item number 7, file number 23002, complaint filed by Stillian Bazanski against Deborah Liu and the Office of the Treasurer and Tax Collector for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6725 and California Government Code 6253C as in cat by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and or complete manner.
Okay, I believe we do have Mr. Bajanski online with us. As if the respondent is present, if you don't mind raising your hand, it would be appreciated so I can identify you. Okay, is there anybody from the respondent at this time? I'm just going to unmute one person to see if they're a party to this. Hello, caller. I was just wondering if you are a party to this matter.
Yes, this is Deborah Liu appearing on behalf of myself and the Office of the Treasurer and Tax Collector.
Thank you very much. We have both parties present at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. What I would like to do is give the petitioner 5 minutes to explain their case, and then we'll give the respondent 5 minutes to respond, and then we'll probably ask you some questions. So Ms. Leger, if you could prepare the timer and let Mr. Bazanski know when you're ready, that would be great.
Can I ask a question before
Is
we
it
start?
a procedural question? Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm wondering, this is identical to the hearing last week. Can't we just stipulate to jurisdiction and avoid the hearing and then just go to the full board?
What I would like to do is just to hear from both of you briefly. You don't have to use the full 5 minutes. And then we'll have a discussion amongst the task force members, open it for public comment, and then we can proceed from there.
So we cannot stipulate to jurisdiction. Is that correct?
I believe that we should follow through with our procedures on this rather than jumping ahead. But perhaps the comments from the complainant and you as the respondent will be brief if you think that's all that you need to say to us, but we want to give you each your full 5 minutes should there be any additional information you need to share with us on this matter.
Okay, is that what the board decides too, that we can't stipulate to jurisdiction? I just
I
want
am
to be
telling
sure.
you what I'm telling you what I'm deciding because I'm on the spot right now, and this is what I'm deciding right now. And I appreciate you being here and taking the time to participate in this meeting. So if we can move forward, I think we can get through this probably fairly quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, just to state, part of this action today is not just jurisdiction, but to determine that we have enough information to actually forward it to the full task force.
Thank you, Mr.
But I just want to state that.
Thank you.
Mr. Bazansky, are you ready to begin your statement?
Yes, I'm ready.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'd like to mention two things. First, I would share some criticism about the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, since I have not done that in a while. Instead of finding whether the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force has jurisdiction over this complaint, it will be better to find out what kind of jurisdiction the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force possesses. Back in December 2022, the task force issued a violation on a similar case based on the California Public Records Act. My understanding is that the purpose of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force is to enforce the Sunshine Ordinance and to give a more clear view of the government business and the way it carries its duties when it comes to the people of San Francisco. The fact that the Sunshine Task Force extends its reach and issues violations based on California law is nice, but at the same time, it defeats the purpose of having Sunshine Ordinance Task Force in the first place. There are local ordinances, state laws, and federal laws. Each law gives guidance on how to handle specific matters, and I think it will be beneficial for Sunshine Ordinance Task Force to say what guidance they're using when it's looking for it's a specific complaint. And second, I have submitted public request 2020-6945 back in December 8, 2022. As per the guidance of the Government Code 6253C, the maximum allowed time to comply with this request is 24 days, which means that the due date was January 3rd, 2023. I submitted the complaint back on January 10th, 2023, which is 7 days after the deadline, and the public request was still open. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you for your comments. Is the respondent ready to begin speaking? And Ms. O'Shea, if you're, let us know when you're ready with the timer.
I am ready. Thank you.
Okay, just a second. Ms. Liu, you ready to begin?
Yes.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. So in the petition, it says that the IDR was propounded on December 7th, and it was actually propounded, as Mr. Bajansky stated, on December 8th, 2022. When we received the IDR, we immediately contacted our IT department, and they notified us that there were approximately 500 records. So we sent the response that this is on the next day, on December 9th, that it was not a simple, routine, or otherwise readily answerable request per San Francisco Admin Code Section 67.25, subsection A. As noted in the hearing of last week, the public cannot necessarily see our message, but we did respond on next request to the requester, stating that we would respond let's see, hold on, sorry, no later than December 19th, and per the responses on the chart, we produced documents for the week of December 16th, 23rd, 28th, January 6th, 13th, 20th, 27th, and worked on this diligently. We also note that we were concurrently working on another PRA, which was the subject of last week's hearing, where we spent 85.59 hours as of December 30th, and then to close the whole similar email request took us 130 hours. So during this time, we were working on 2 of his requests, as well as other PRA requests, both, rolling PRAs, but mostly regular PRAs, which we do not have to exercise the rolling responses, as we do try to get these done efficiently and fairly. I think that one of the problems that we have here is that Mr. Bajanski refuses to let us not redact his cell phone numbers and personal information, so we have to read carefully and redact all the information that we're required to redact, in addition to what we would see as unnecessary information, which is his email and his cell phone number. And that would also save, a significant amount of time if we didn't have to do that. But we have been redacting for attorney-client, work product privilege, because there is pending litigation, taxpayer confidential records, and personal information. So for these reasons, we are doing our work carefully, diligently, protecting the rights of those who are entitled to privacy, and there's no reason why we should be dragged to these hearings every single week. Not every single week, but often enough where we're just willing to stipulate to jurisdiction. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Members, questions for the petitioner or the respondent?
Me, Bruce.
Member Wolf, please go ahead.
Okay, a few things. One, to start with, this particular complaint is duplicative to the same respondent as what we heard in the complaint committee last week, and should have been set up as to be combined within the same committee. So that's going to be the first part of my motion, is to, when I make it, will be to have those two be considered to be combined at the task force level. And that's why Ms. Liu was asking for a stipulation. Okay. Second of all, and just to respond to some things the petitioner had mentioned, the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force's jurisdiction is the Brown Act, the California Public Records Act, and the Sunshine Ordinance. The Sunshine Ordinance is an enhancement of one or the other or both of those state laws. And there are many sections that are not contained in the Sunshine Ordinance because the framers of the ordinance felt that the state law was sufficient. So we always have to refer to both laws with regards to various sections. Now, many of the sections that most of our complaints come in for, most of the complaints that come into us for, are contained within the Sunshine Ordinance, and those areas provide the enhancement, so to speak. For instance, the petitioner states that Government Code 6753.C regarding maximum allowed time to comply with requests is 24 days. Well, that's correct, but under the Sunshine Ordinance, which is an enhancement, it's 10 days. And with regards to 6725 IDR, the way that works and the way it reads very plainly is that the respondent has, by the end of the following business day, to just respond, that whether they have the documents or not. And if they are voluminous in nature, they can request an extension of only 10 days, but they cannot use that extension for a simple request or a simple matter just so that they can have the extra time. Okay, that's where people are getting, the respondents are reading the ordinance incorrectly. So I just want that to be clear. I made this exact same statement at the complaint committee on the same, for the same parties. Okay, just to have it on the record twice now. Okay, so so I'll move to find jurisdiction. I find that we have enough information, of which the both parties still have opportunities to add to the record before it goes to the task force, and to refer this to the full task force with the further recommendation by this committee to have this item 23002 and 22141 be combined.
This is Member Wong. I will second that.
Okay, I think this sounds like a good plan, and that actually clears up why Ms. Liu feels like she just went through this. I do see Mr. Bajanski's hand up. Would you like, I will give you a chance to say something if you have something else to say, or is that from before?
Sure, I can add something. So basically what I want to say is that the last time when I wanted to respond, but I don't remember his name, the person before you, what was his family? What was his name?
Member Wolf? Yeah.
Member Wolf, yeah. Because you are saying that the 53C is just like the Brown Act, and we have the ordinance, the local ordinance that should have more, should be enhancement. But the last time, I think the respondent to the case used a fifth mayor proclamation as part of the ordinance to give her unlimited time to respond to the request, which would have been a violation of the, again, the Brown Act. So sometimes what it happens, for some reason, what happens is there is more, like more power of the ordinance over the state law. So that kind of reduces that democracy, if you can, I can express it that way, instead of providing more democracy. I'm not sure where you get my point, but anyway, that's the thing I want to add.
Okay, thank you. As Member Wolf said, it is our responsibility to not only hold up both the California Public Records Act, the Brown Act, and the San Francisco Sunshine Ordinance. So we are taking all of these things into consideration, and knowing that in some instances the Sunshine Ordinance does have more stringent requirements, and when it does, those are the ones that we apply.
Okay, but sometimes it doesn't have that stringent requirement, so it's both ways. As I said, the last time the respondent used and said that they have unlimited time by the fifth proclamation of which actually.
So we'll deal with that at the task force level.
Okay.
Where you'll have.
I just want to bring those things.
That's fine. You can have it on the record. That's fine. But right now we're dealing with jurisdiction. And we want to be able to just get this through this jurisdictional step, and then at the full hearing we can take up all those other issues.
Okay, I'm just saying that I disagree with you. Okay, then go ahead.
So we have a motion. We have a second. I'd like to take public, unless and since I gave Ms. Bajanski another chance to speak, Ms. Liu, do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. Then before we move to public comment, Ms. Auger, could you read back the motion?
Yes. Moved by Member Wolf, seconded by Member Wong, to find jurisdiction, the records are public, and to forward the matter to the task force with the further recommendation by this committee to have this item 23002 and item 22141 be combined. Is that correct, Member Wolf?
That is correct.
Okay, Mr. Young, do we have anyone wishing to make public comment on this motion?
If there are any other parties who'd like to make public comment on this matter, you can press *3 to raise your hand, or use the application to raise your hand at this time to indicate you'd like to make public comment. I'll give everyone a few moments. I will just, since this is our last time, I'm just going to go ahead and unmute them just to be sure they're not having issues.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, caller, I've unmuted you. Would you like to make any public comment at this time? Okay, not hearing a response. We'll move on to our next one. Hello, caller. Oh, they just dropped out on me.
Okay.
I have nobody else with us today.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you everyone for being here. Ms. Auger, please call the vote.
Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Chair LaHood?
Aye.
Chair LaHood, aye. Motion passes. Should we read the next item, Chair LaHood?
Yes, please.
Item number 8, summary of possible amendments to the Sunshine Ordinance proposed by members of the public, presented to the committee for possible forwarding to the task force.
So, members, here's what I did. I went back and listened to the audio from our 2 listening sessions. I also took some written suggestions that were sent to us, and I tried to present them in a very condensed format. As I say in sort of the introduction to this, some of these items are in conflict with each other. The purpose here was not to endorse anything or to, as I said, without making endorsements or judgment about the merit, cost, practicality of implementation, contradiction with other suggestions, or possibility of approval by the San Francisco Board of Supervisors or voters through one or more ballot propositions. The whole purpose of this was just to essentially create a list for further discussion. One thing I want to note is that there was a submission of the ordinance with lots of annotations. Clearly that contains more than is contained here, but I felt like it would be excessive and impractical to go through and comment on each of those annotations. That may come up again in further future discussions, but what I wanted to present here was what came out of our listening sessions. And I believe the highlights from that annotated document are contained here, although I do not promise that I captured every single item that may have been contained there. I'm hearing some background noise.
No, I thought.
Okay. So, members, thoughts, questions, ideas, what you'd like to do with this. I put this together, but I am open to feedback and critique if you would like to handle this in a different way.
I guess my main question is there a reason to just notify the full task force of opinions and suggestions that the public is making on the Sunshine Ordinance, or is there like a stronger purpose for us to actually be putting together our own recommendations for updates to the Sunshine Ordinance?
That's a good question. I believe that there's an opportunity for us to make our own recommendations, but what we did want to do is we knew that there were members of the public who wanted to make recommendations. And so the first part of the process was to sort of take those in. I see that as one step. I think in terms of, you know, having further discussion and coming up with our own proposals, our own proposed amendments, I think is going to be a lengthier process. But are you suggesting that we hold off on these until hold off on sending these to the full task force until we come up with our own distillation of what we should propose?
That's not what I was suggesting, but I see
Okay.
Member Wolf nodding his head.
Oh, what were you suggesting, Member Wong?
I don't have any suggestion, I guess.
Okay. My sensibility about this is kind of how similar to how the Rules Committee operates. You know, they see that there may be an issue or subject that comes up before the task force that needs a possible rule change. The Rules Committee kind of mulls it over and comes up with a proposal that then gets brought to the task force. Now, that's a process that stays confined within the task force. But the task force has a charge that it shall, keyword shall, propose to the Board of Supervisors amendments to this chapter. Okay, so when we see it, when we see fit that amendments need to be made, we shall do that. So if the public is bringing forward suggestions or proposals or recommendations or arguments, whatever verb you want to use, to bring it to our attention and to get our, so that, and we think that, and agree that a change should be made for one reason or another, with or without the public's suggestion, initiation. And we feel that an adjustment to the ordinance should be made. That's our job. So I think, with all due diligence, this committee should do the due diligence and bring forward a cogent way of bringing these proposals forward. Now, the ordinance is, you know, pretty massive. There's been changes to the California Public Records Act and to the Brown Act over the years, partially due to the pandemic and for other reasons. And there is more to come, probably from the legislature. And so I don't think that it's a good use of our time to kind of do it all at once. Other people have done that work already, and I think we can take section, you know, do it like we can either break it down by article in the chapter. There are 4 articles. First article, actually, there's nothing in the first article unless we want to put more teeth in the opening preamble statements of the ordinance, which are pretty strong as it is. But in Article 2, which is public records, Article 3, which is Article 2, which is public meetings, Article 3 is public records, and Article 4, which is the administration of the and the implementation of policy. So we might want to take, you know, each one, you know, and I think it'd be a little bit easier to swallow. And until we finish, you know, all together, I think we can provide the Board of Supervisors. We can decide that at task force. Do we want to give it to them in piecemeal, or do we want to give them in big chunks, or do we want to give it to them comprehensive? You know, a full document. And there may be some items that, that need to be deferred for, one reason or another, we may find. So that's my suggestion, is that I think we should figure out a plan of action as to which, on just how to proceed so that it's manageable for us and our time and everybody else's time. And just also not to have to swallow it whole. I think that's not very helpful unless whoever's presenting it as a whole is really making it digestible.
So here's a question procedurally. This committee is meeting and we're the members of the committee. Do we have to do everything live in meetings, or can we have working documents? That's my concern.
Well, we each can be doing work,
and then we present until we.
Yeah, this goes back to I had tried to create working groups, to be able to do this kind of work, if you recall. So a couple of years ago, and that was not necessarily advised. Now, what we can do is we can have meetings that have no action. So take the annual retreat. We don't take action. We could take action there, but we don't. But it's really just a kind of an open session for the task force members and for members of the public to observe. And we do provide an opportunity for the public to make comment. And in past years in those retreats, we've had a fairly kind of open discussion. Everybody's equal at the table, more or less, kind of thing. Just kind of open discussion. But I think for this purpose, if we wanted to work on it together, as long as we're doing it in the public view, we don't necessarily have to take public comment on it, because there are items that are being discussed, but I think we're not making necessarily decisions. It's one big item. It depends on how the agenda for that would be created. If we're going to break it down, like we're going to discuss this, and then we're going to discuss this, or we're going to discuss this, then we probably would have to have public comment for each one. But if we were to take it in a big chunk, like Article 4, policy implementation, and just do it all at once, then it's one public comment period for that.
I'm not even so much worried about public comment. I'm worried about when we have time for this. I think we might be able to say, okay, yeah, let's do a meeting, next Monday, but that doesn't fit in. Do we need to have, Cheryl and or Victor there?
Oh, yes.
Or can we just have okay.
Yeah, that would, I think we've come to that conclusion, and our legal counsel, I think we had gotten some advice from them that in a public meeting that it needed to be at like a regular public meeting. The thing is, if we were on SF.gov TV, it would really solve a lot of problems with regards to remote, kind of dealing with the remote meeting issues and whatnot, and having to deal with this. But I think I'm wondering if maybe we have a meeting or have a series of meetings where 1 hour is devoted to working in a work group function, and 1 hour is for other activity.
Here's a crazy, here's a thought, and I'd like to hear what you both think, and also to hear from Ms. Lachey and Mr. Young on this. I know that that this meeting opens at 4 p.m., that the space is open at 4 p.m., even though the meeting doesn't start until 4:30. Would it be a good idea or a bad idea to say, and maybe not exactly, say from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, this is going to be an open working group, for the next couple of sessions until we get through this. And starting at 5 o'clock, the Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting will start. Now, I don't know if that works with your schedules or if we would have to do it from 4:30 to 5:30. Okay. Member Wong says no. So if we were to do it from 4:30 to 5:30, say for the next 2 or 3 meetings, since everyone's going to be here anyway, but we would say that other, the official CAC meeting will start at 5:30. Do you think that's a way to tackle this where we're all planning to be there anyway, the opportunity for public participation and viewing of the work that we're doing, which after this meeting, we're going back to, as far as I know, to in-person meetings after this. So
Right. So don't worry about whether it's in-person meetings or not.
Okay.
Don't worry about that.
Aside.
Yeah, that aside.
4:30 to 5:30, or at least for the next meeting. What if we were to start 4:30 to 5:30? At the next meeting, we focus on part 1 and 2. So 1, just to review it and see if there's any, any flourishes we want to add, but really focusing on 2 and see how far we can get.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean review on 2?
Oh, with the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. So to take into consideration what the members of the public have suggested to us, which was what we have in this list, but also independently applying our judgment to the Sunshine Ordinance and coming up with our recommendations for amendments that we think should be made, either through the Board of Supervisors or by putting it on the ballot.
That seems fine to me.
Yep. Sounds good
Okay.
to me too.
So this is we're discussing this because this is on the agenda, but do we need a motion for that, or is that just this is what
No,
we're...
you just, well, no, we don't need a motion for it. You are in control of the agenda for this committee.
So I'm telling you now, it's going to be on the next agenda.
There you go.
So any other thoughts on this, or things that we might, I would like to ask all of us in advance to pay particular attention to those sections of the ordinance, sort of cross-referencing with the recommendations that have come through from the public and other documents that have been shared with us regarding these matters. And as much as possible, if we can sort of each do our own synthesis, so that when we come together and are going line by line, that we can hopefully move quickly and come to a lot of consensus, or have very interesting arguments, both of which are acceptable.
That's good.
Okay. Ms. Leger, does that make sense?
Yeah, I just typed that out.
Okay.
I was typing it out, excuse me.
Yeah. So, Mr. Young, we've had this discussion, this item's on the agenda. I would like to open this up for public comment. I don't know if there's anyone here who has any public comment, but we'd like to give them the opportunity.
Left with us at this time. I'll just go ahead and unmute them and see if they want to comment. Philip, I unmuted you. I was wondering if you have any public comment on this item.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, Cheryl, at your discretion.
Is that Mr. Hillier?
Yep.
You ready, sir?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I was just responding to something that Mr. Wolf said. I was just thinking about the retreat that the Behavioral Health Commission has this year and how they really can't continue to have it because it's neither a regular nor a special meeting. It's not a regular meeting because it's not at the regular time and place for meetings, and it's not a special meeting because it has discussion-only items. Special meetings under the Sunshine Ordinance can only contain proposed actions, no discussion-only items. And as far as convening a work group, I don't see how you could do that and have it be, coterminous with something that's already a policy body. If you convene a work group that's equal to this committee, then it's a meeting of the committee, as far as I can tell. Now, as far as amendments to the Sunshine Ordinance, I had submitted to Chair LaHood a proposal almost 2 years ago. It was in April of 2021 to broaden Section 67.9 to include communications regarding stuff not on the agenda, sort of like a general equivalent to general public comment. So I can send it to you again if you lost it, but I'd like to have that considered. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Okay, that's the only caller we had with us at this time. We can close.
So I will respond. Thank you, Mr. Hillier. I will say that I was not looking back to 2 years back for materials to include in this. If you would like to forward that to me again, I would love to take a look at it.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have any, Mr. Young, you said there's no one else to make public comment at this time. Is that correct?
Yes, we have no other callers on the line with us.
Okay, so Ms. Leger, could you please call the next item?
Item number 9, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the Compliance and Amendments Committee.
So because the last item was on the agenda, we sort of already had a discussion about what was one thing that was going to be on a future agenda. But I would like to ask members, do you have any other things that you would like for us to discuss going forward? Although I think we've just created a whole bunch of work for ourselves.
No.
Okay. I don't have anything else either. Just for Kicks will allow one final round of public comment. Mr. Young, do we have any last public comments before we close out our meeting?
We still have Mr. Hillier on the line with us if you'd like to make any public comment.
Nope, no comments.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Leger, please call the last item.
Item number 10, adjournment. I have 6:39.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you being here. See you next time.